And amongst the regional revolutions of the weekend that saw new mayors in Auckland, Tauranga, Hamilton, although who their mayor is exactly is still something of a work in progress, New Plymouth, Wellington and Queenstown, there was a nationwide first. Siblings elected as mayors in the same election. Bryan and Tim Cadogan are the country's first siblings to both serve as mayors. Bryan re-elected as mayor of Clutha, who shot to international attention recently with his open invitation for the world to move to kai tangata, and his younger brother Tim, who on Saturday became Central Otago's new mayor. And yes, the two districts do board around Roxburgh. They hit each other. I spoke to Mayor Cadogan and Mayor Cadogan, both of them, earlier this afternoon. It was a rather welcome break, I have to say, from the US presidential debate. And I asked Tim, the younger brother and new mayor for Central Otago, if he'd been inspired by his big bro.
I suppose in some ways you could say that's a part of it, John. It's been something that's been on the radar for quite some time and probably spurred along a bit, in part by seeing what Bryan's achieved, yeah.
And so what was it in terms of politics you wanted to achieve, Tim?
For me, the biggest thing that on my platform that I campaigned on was better communication between the council and the community. There's been a bit of a disconnect there in my view, and certainly the results suggest that I was correct in that.
Bryan, he sounds the part, doesn't he? He sounds utterly persuasive and convincing as a new mayor.
Oh, I don't know about that, John. I was thinking, gee, he's got a bit to learn. He'll be the part.
Yeah. Did he come to you for advice?
Well, we've probably been a political family right from day one. So the main advice that we've had is right from, being kids.
So what? The dining room table stuff? Mum and Dad talking politics? Did you participate?
Yeah.
Did you take an interest? Did you give a damn as youngsters?
Look, as a family we had to. And probably the parallel that Tim and I would have is that once the political decision was finished, Mum would always question the moral judgment of the decision. That's one thing we will have in common.
Yeah, well, we're speaking to you as the US presidential debate takes place, and boy, we could do with a bit of... Oh, boy.
Please don't compare it.
Yeah, well,
please don't.
And Tim, I'd like to talk to you. People are a little bit cynical about politics and politicians at the moment. What can you do to overcome that? In other words, you talk about a breakdown between the council and the community in terms of communication, but there's also a breakdown in terms of belief, isn't there?
Well, I think that there's an element to that, and it's just an unfortunate one, and certainly I don't think anything around here is anything like the American elections, but it's a matter of being out amongst the people, and that almost sounds cliched saying that. It sounds like a campaign slogan for either of the parties, but it is a matter of being out there, and one of the things I've done is had coffee mornings, which I'm going to keep doing. I'm just going to be sitting in a cafe now as mayor, not a candidate. Come and have a yarn. Come and bend my ear over what your problem is, and we'll see what we can do. And I think that is a fundamental start, to be present in the community, to be available and to be approachable.
What is the appeal of Central Otago, Tim, if you were going to sell it for people who are feeling estranged from any sense of possibility in Auckland? What would you say to them was best about it?
Oh, where does one begin? Central's actually looking forward to 16% growth in the next 28 years in terms of population. So we don't have a lot of the problems that other regions do, even though Ranfurly has lost its bank. It's all boom here. But yes, in terms of there's a beautiful lifestyle here. If you're into fishing, we've got the lakes. If you're into wine, we've got, I would say, the best wine growing region in New Zealand, but I actually mean that. We've got absolutely everything you need here. If you look at the town I live in, Clyde, it's got 1,000 people. It's got two absolutely top-class restaurants and two other very, very good restaurants. I don't want to offend anybody by that, so I'm not going to say which are which. But in terms of, if you're going out for a family meal, you might go to that one, or if you're having a special occasion, you might go to that one. Not that sort of thing. For me, at my stage of life, I pay $330 a year green fees, and I walk to the golf club. It's a one wood and a decent chip, and I'm on the first green. You're not taking all your time to get anywhere to do the things you want. If I want to go for a swim in the lake, it's a 5-minute drive away. If I want to go for a swim in the river, it's a 5-minute walk. It's just got absolutely everything you would want. And people think, well, you don't have the theatre. Well, our local musical society just put on the Pirates of Penzance. It's a very strong culture.
Did you go? Did you go, Tim?
Well, I did, absolutely.
And how was it?
It was fantastic.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Bryan, he's got the gift of the gab, your brother, hasn't he?
He's got the hang of it. I should say that one time Tim was lead of what was that one, Tim?
The full Monty.
Loads off. The full Monty.
You do. Hold on a sec. Did you do the full Monty, Tim?
Yeah, and John, do you know what? On opening night, I dropped my hat.
Oh my oh my God! This is getting more like the US presidential elections. Brian.
Yeah, I was only groping myself at that.
Oh, goodness gracious. Brian, let's make it seemly. Just before we go, you know, and Tim doesn't know it yet, how rough and tough and unsentimental politics can be. And people say things about you, and you think to yourself, hold on, I'm trying my best. But they see you in much more cynical terms. Was there any moment when you felt like saying to your little bro, hey, don't do this, it's bloody tough and I don't recommend it? Or did you wholeheartedly encourage him?
He actually announced before I knew, but there's never been any hesitation, you know, as a go for it, Tim. You know, if it's, he has to be his own man. Sooner or later, as we've been saying, politics is very isolating at times, and I'm not going to be there to hold his hand, and he's not going to be there to hold my hand. We've got to stand on our own 2 feet, and you know, there's I always go back to stand by your principles, stand by your beliefs, Tim, and they're different than mine. But hey, look, at the same time, I know that I look back from 6 years ago when I first became mayor, and they were just the most magical few weeks. It's a time of your life. Yes, it can be brutal at times, but it can also be such a rewarding and fulfilling job.
It's Bryan Cadogan, who was the mayor of Clutha. He was re-elected on Saturday, and we were also, of course, talking to his little brother Tim, who became the mayor of Central Otago on Saturday.